What's up, everybody? Another great weekend of football in the books. Before we get into this, do me a favor, hit the like button on this video and subscribe to the channel for more content. With that being said, let's get into my instant reactions to Week 11. Starting on Thursday night, Tennessee beat the Packers 27-17. This was a game that sort of went as expected. Green Bay sort of showed up against Dallas, gave everybody some false hope. Tennessee decided to, stamp it out. Titans are on a roll. I think that had the refs not sort of screwed them out of that win over Kansas City, they would be alive for the first seed in the AFC. I don't know what it is about the Titans, man. They just keep winning, but we all know what it is with the Packers. They just keep on losing, and they're going to continue to do that. Chicago 24 at Atlanta 27. Atlanta wins this game, a game that really was more entertaining than it had any right to be. These are two teams that are going to miss the playoffs, but they both are showing really encouraging signs for next year, which is really all you can hope for from these two teams right now. The Bears, this is honestly sort of best case scenario for them, where Justin Fields is flashing a lot, showing a lot of progress, and has earned himself another year as the Bears starter. But they're losing, so they're not like losing out on any great draft position because this roster really needs to upgrade, and the best way for them to do that is young talent in the draft. Cleveland at Buffalo at Detroit, really. The Bills win 31-23. This game started off a little slow for Buffalo, which I'm not all that shocked by. They had a lot going on this week between massive snowstorms and having to go to a different city, not really having a chance to probably practice as much as they would have liked. And took them a little bit to get warmed up against the Browns, but after a while, the Browns were just overwhelmed. That defense of Cleveland is awful outside of Myles Garrett. The Bills are slowly bouncing back. I think they're rounding back into form the more healthy that they get, and we'll get a chance to see them again on Thanksgiving in Detroit again. So I think that the Bills are going to get some momentum going heading into that playoff run. Philadelphia at Indianapolis, Eagles 17, Colts 16. I thought this game was going to go a lot better for Philly than it did. The Colts show strong again, and it takes every single chance for the Eagles to come in and eke out a 1-point win. I'm still not overreacting to the Eagles struggling. Every single one of these teams this year has had a couple of off weeks. The Eagles still won. The Colts, for some reason, they're playing a little more feisty now. There's still not a ton of offensive production to show for it, but they're hanging tough. And Philly maintains that their stranglehold on the first seed, but they are definitely showing signs of being vulnerable. I'm not sure they're the juggernaut that everyone thought they was, or thought they were just 2 weeks ago while they were still undefeated. Jets at Patriots. Jets 3, Patriots 10. This game was ugly as all get out, 3-3 until the very end when the Pats win it on essentially a walk-off punt return. Zach Wilson did not look good at all. If the Jets offense was competent in the least, they win this game. The Patriots actually moved the ball, and if it wasn't for a couple of missed field goals, this game technically would have never been in doubt. The Pats just they have an issue with their offensive play calling right now. Mac Jones has regressed from last year, and not all of that is on him. A lot of that has to do with the very public I guess situation is just the best word for it, having no real offensive coordinator there, having a defensive guy and a special teams guy essentially switch calling the plays for the offense. Not ideal, but the Pats are in the playoffs as of right now, so it could be worse. Next up, we got the Rams at the New Orleans Saints. Rams 20, Saints 27. The Rams are just in a bad place right now. With Cooper Kupp being out for several weeks, I imagine by the time he's healthy again, they'll be done for the year, and they should probably just shut him down. Saints show... you can't really say they show strongly, but they got the win at home. Next week, they play the 49ers, and we'll get a much more... a better read on the Saints. I don't think they'll beat the 49ers, but it'll be better competition than the Rams. All right, Detroit at the Giants. Detroit 31, Giants 18. Right when I decide to believe in the New York Football Giants, they go and drop the ball against the Detroit Lions. The Lions are playing strong, though. They're actually stringing some wins together. This is what we hoped for earlier in the year, but it feels like too little too late for them. Giants, they probably built up enough of a cushion where even if they falter down the stretch, they'll make the playoffs. But these are the type of games that really sort of reaffirm the thought that they really aren't a true contender. Their record is better than they are, and they're still a year or two away before they can actually contend with the true NFC like powerhouses, much less contend for a Super Bowl on the whole. Next up, Carolina at Baltimore. Panthers 3, Ravens 13. A really weird one. The Panthers defense played really, really well, and so did the Ravens defense, but that's less of an accomplishment against the Panthers offense. Ravens had to grind one out, but they did. The Panthers have been really feisty the last few weeks, not really winning, but just keeping the games a lot closer than earlier in the season, so credit to them. And ultimately, the team that should have won the game. It was just a weird one. It was just this odd game where the Ravens made it way tougher on themselves than they should, but they didn't drop the game, so it's all's well that ends well, right? Washington at Houston. Washington 23, Houston 10. I'm really only mentioning this game just to mention all the games. There's nothing really to say about it. The Texans are bad. The Commanders are stringing some wins together, but none of them are particularly impressive, other than the Eagles one. But I view that more as Philly just sort of dropping the ball than Washington really taking advantage of much. So, yeah, this game happened. It's an inconsequential game on all fronts. If I'm the Texans, I'm cool with it. I don't need to be getting any wins at this point in the year when I am trying desperately to get that top pick and to draft a franchise quarterback. Vegas at Denver. Raiders 22, Denver Broncos 16. Such an ugly game, man. Raiders win in overtime on a walk-off touchdown by Devontae Adams. Listen, this game has less to do with the Raiders and more to do with the absolute ineptitude of the Broncos offense. This team, it's so ridiculous. I mean, because the Raiders defense is abysmal. It's trash. It's no good at all. The Raiders routinely blow 17-point leads. They've done that 3 times. The Broncos couldn't even score 17 points in 4 quarters against them. It's all bad. Nothing really great to take out of this. Heads are going to roll at the end of this season. You can't fire Russell Wilson. You get too much money. I think George Payton is actually worth keeping. So the fall guy is definitely going to be Hackett at the end of this year. A little unfortunate, but is what it is. That offense that he constructed is... I'm not sure if statistically it's the worst in the NFL, but my God, it feels like the worst in the NFL when you watch it. Dallas at Minnesota. Cowboys 40, Vikings 3. I predicted that the Vikings were in for a letdown game after that Bills win. I didn't think that it would be this big, but I thought Dallas was going to beat them pretty well. They got all the luck in the world in Buffalo, and that luck ran out this week. And I think they were coming from such an emotional high, and they just dipped. Not to mention the Cowboys are just a good team on top of it. They're not this far better than the Vikings on most days. I think that this was just sort of a perfect storm of stuff. And Minnesota went down. Luckily for them, the NFC North is well in hand for them. There's nothing for them to really worry about. They're going to make the playoffs. They're going to win the North, and they're going to do it easily. For the Cowboys, this keeps them within reach of the Eagles. With the Eagles faltering the way they are, and they still have another matchup with Dallas, I think the Cowboys should be feeling really good about themselves right about now. The NFC East is still very much alive for them, and the first seed in the NFC on the whole is something that's very attainable as well. So this was a huge win for the Cowboys. Not a good loss for the Vikings, but it's one that overall doesn't hurt their standing much. Cincinnati at Pittsburgh, Bengals 37, Steelers 30. I mean, this game sort of went how you'd think, and that the Bengals won. Sort of like the Ravens game. This game is just a weird one where it's way closer than it should have been. I don't love that the Bengals gave up 30 points to a Steelers offense that can never score a damn thing. But they got the win. Credit to them. They're about to enter a brutal stretch that's going to define their season. this was a game they had to have, otherwise their year was essentially done. So good for the Bengals, got this one done, and now they're going to have to run the gauntlet to make the playoffs. Kansas City at LA, Chiefs 30, Chargers 27. Your typical Chiefs-Chargers game. Really close, really competitive. Chargers had the lead a lot of the game, sort of outplayed them a lot of the game, and then blow it at the very end, as they tend to do. In typical Charger fashion, they just can't close teams out. Injuries don't help, but a lot of teams are injured. You have to close these games. I still think the Chargers will make the playoffs, but they're not making their lives any easier by doing stuff like that. As for the Chiefs, they're still really good, and I'm going to actually come out with a video probably on Friday where I break down where I think this Chiefs team ranks in like the pantheon of like great teams of each decade. Because they seem to be the team that's been the most consistent, but I think that they are a little overrated. I'll put it that way. And then the last game, this one was tonight, 49ers versus the Cardinals in Mexico City. 49ers 38, Arizona 10. 49ers just put the smack down on them. There's not really much else to say about it. Kyler Murray didn't play. I don't think it would have mattered much. The 49ers just out-physicaled them. They were able to throw it. They were able to run it. They were able to stop them. This is, I think, the third straight game where the 49ers didn't give up any points in the second half. They're rounding into form down the stretch, and I think the NFC West is theirs for the taking, especially after tonight. They are in first place, given that they hold the tiebreaker with the Seahawks. The 49ers get to play the Seahawks one more time, but the Seahawks have to play the 49ers one more time. And I think that's the difference. The Seahawks they're going to have to really pull out something special, and the 49ers just have to stay the course to win the West. So, overall, great weekend of games. Really looking forward to this week. 3 games on Thursday with Thanksgiving. It's going to be great. Thanks so much for checking this video out. Again, like and subscribe. Really helps out the channel. I really appreciate it. And, have a great night, you guys. Peace.